Hi everyone. Today I thought I'd share some of my thoughts over the last few days, and what I found was something very important, very interesting, which I thought was worth sharing because of the last video that I made, which was an announcement to basically start with focusing on the internal realm or the internal space that is within you. And I hope that some have tried the exercises like I've been suggesting to some of the members that were doing the lectures with me. I've certainly been doing it myself, and I've discovered quite significant information. And the information really relates to understanding the greater sense of the realm and the realm dynamics in which we exist within this reality, within this world traveler or age. And it boils down to something much more simpler, which I'm basically going to try and explain from what my perspectives, my observations have been. What I've noticed is that in the observation and the experience of this realm, you are directly tracked and involved in the element or the demiurgic influence, frequency, archetype, and pantheon of gods, which they call themselves Olympians. So too the elite call themselves Olympians as well. They believe that they are the children of those archetypes. Nothing new. You know about this. It's been in my channel for years now. And the interesting thing is that, as I've said before, the archetype, demiurge, creature, god, demigod, requires your creative ability, your energy to exist, to coexist with you. Hence where the New Agers and those that call themselves truthers, TROOTHERs, that's what they look like, with all the pseudo sciences and the pseudo political nuances and religions, etc., etc. Nonsense. And bullshit does baffle brains. Of course, it always happens that way. But aside from that, before I lose the track, it requires your involvement in this reality, in this realm, to be part of its demiurge plan. Like I said, the demigod has urges which humans act out. That's how the system is operating. It requires possibly an agreement, whether you were coerced into it or whether you had other motives. And if you had other motives, well, then you're not on this channel, right? But I'm talking to those of us and those who have been aware of things for some time, the ones in the knowing, the ones with the wisdom, that you felt coerced, you felt trapped, your life has been in a trapped state. And no, we're not digging into the past and hurling up the woe, the sad, and all of these things. I mean, I've also researched a little bit as well. I've looked at the old philosophers. I've looked at Spinoza. I've looked at Descartes specifically because they stood out for me, and I've looked at others as well. And both of these philosophers have had tragic endings. They've had tragic lives while they were promoting that information and the wisdom to people, and they thought they could help. And Spinoza specifically was a person who fled his original belief systems, his original religions in which he was raised in. He was raised as a Jewish man, and he was taught in the original the Jewish Orthodox studies and schoolings and stuff like that. And it's a big deal for him to have left and found other ways to follow his beliefs, his explorations. And he came to a few things which were very interesting. And I'll explain just now what I wanted to say earlier on. I've not lost that thought. And what he said was, or what he found was, he wrote a book called The Ethics, and it's a very difficult book to go through because it's so filled with so much information that it'll take you a long time to actually go through it. And if anyone's ever interested, just read the book Spinoza's Ethics. And essentially what the nutshell is, what the smaller part is he couldn't understand and explain that his connection with the original creator, which we know exists beyond this realm, we know that it exists. He couldn't come to the qualifications of trying to make it sound like it was a goody two shoes, fantastic, godly thing, or like some of these new age channels say, if you keep quiet, you're in the presence of God, the Lord, and Archangel Michael will protect you, blah, 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 bullshit. All of these channels that promote these things create pseudo-religious belief systems to keep you into its construct, because that's what the demiurge wants, the demiurgic influence, the archetype, the thing that Aleister Crowley worshipped via occult channels. Sadly, that gave the occult a bad name, and everyone would think that the occult was satanic. It's just, anyway, we've explored that before, so done and dusted, right? And so in the following, he explained that the original creator exists within everyone who make themselves aware of that connection, which means going within. That's where Rene Descartes did the same thing. He found the original creator within the stillness of his mind, and so also did Carlos Castaneda find the same thing, that it is best to work on the inner stillness, the quiet, that way you are able to find your internal self, your internal spirit, connect with your internal spirit internally, your spirit, your soul, your mind, your thoughts. However, unfortunately, Descartes had also given concrete, logical, or rational arguments and said that if I can think of myself, then it means that I exist, because he came to a point, I suppose, with all of his experimentations, that he started questioning whether he even existed. And he found that the only thing that's the most logical was his mind, his thoughts. And he explored that in his journey. And so basically what I want to say is this: if you do explore going into yourself, you may find a few things that may perhaps not, some things may be amazing that you never really explored about yourself, and some things may be very different, very, very strange, that has changed. Things that at some point in your life you once could attain into your thoughts, into your internal psyche, and something has changed. And those things that have changed are things that have been changed because of the external reality, where the demiurge and its pantheon of gods, and pantheon means multiple religions, beliefs. It could also be plural God, and I suppose everything else under that umbrella, that sick, twisted umbrella overlaying people, which is what gives the system overlay its power to really formulate your conscious thoughts, to make you feel that you cannot exist without having something interfere in your thoughts. And so, coincidentally, technology and the driving forces of the world in its progress, supposed progress. However, the mind and the thinking has never changed, not ever. You're still thinking the same way like you used to think when you lived 600 years ago. Doesn't matter. Your mind still thinks the same. The process is the same. So nothing special about that. And so, as I'm going back to what you find inside of you, is you may find that, like I found, that the demiurge has created an intubation pipe cord, a frequency by way of experiences, not by consent, rooted into the conscious thoughts. There is that thing that sits inside there that you're trying to dig out, that you don't know how to pronounce even. I know that many of you are feeling that. I know that I've felt it. You've been trying to dig it out so that it can escape your conscious, so that you can leave from it. But the more you try and do this, the more it roots into your consciousness. I mean, I was told exactly, like, if you try and do this, that's the end. And I thought, okay, well then that's fine. Go ahead. Let's do this. Let's rock and roll. And it only likes to joust with you. It jousts with you, but doesn't actually get to the point where you are in such a state that you are, where it's, life or death. It never gets to that level. You don't ever get to that level. Sometimes your physical form needs to break down or perhaps build up. It doesn't matter where you stand in your consciousness, where you stand in your awareness. And I want to reiterate the understanding of consciousness for its purpose, for its importance, is that consciousness is related to the internal communication and presence of yourself, your spirit, your soul, and all the faculties that are within you. Though I think it was Bohm that said the world within worlds, or wheels within wheels, or something like that. I think he referred to the internal consciousness where you traverse the spheres inside of you. However, I don't feel like it's a good thing to even consider, so I will always just call it consciousness, because we're not hamsters. We don't run in circles in our minds. We're not like that. We are essentially very sovereign beings which have been trapped inside a frequency overlay, held in check by archetypes that were brought in. Where they came from the thoughts of people, and those things are rooted inside of the consciousness. They sit there like a parasite, and it keeps trying to feed from your dreams. It keeps feeding things through. I think I have to also bring to mind that a perfect study on it was from Eve Lorgan's book, The Alien Love Bite, and many others that have come after that have been presenting it as well, where there's a thing that keeps coming into your conscious thoughts. I mean, it can present itself as in whatever form, shape, or size, It can present itself as anything. Anything. It can present itself as you may even think it's your ego. But you've dealt with your stuff before, right? And then you keep doubting yourself because it's playing mind games with you. It's jousting with you because it doesn't want you to leave. It wants you to, if your physical body does break down and you pass over, it wants you to return straight back so that it can keep functioning, because it requires you to be the urges for its existence, for its demiurgic existence. Is this evil? Is this part of what's really been going on in the background? I think so. Personally, that's what I think. And I'd love to hear your comments on it. What I wanted to say about this realm is that it's not as what it seems to be. It's not a secret, it's not anything new. You know about this, but I'm reiterating it again because it's worse. It's worse because many people and many of people that may not be on this channel, but I'm talking to you specifically, have become aware of the roots of this demiurgic influence and frequencies within the self, within souls, rooted inside people, like a parasite. You didn't choose to have it inside of you, it rooted itself into you. That was the first violation. Hence, they wrote biblical stories about the fall of man. And sadly, that is why it became that way. So understand that when you become aware of that thing, it makes you know that you will go through internal changes, tests, things that'll make you feel like you are questioning your sanity. But the good thing about it is the fact that it is like the drowning man syndrome. It's like getting rid of a parasite inside of the body where it makes you crave all kinds of things when you're busy trying to get rid of it. So keep that in mind at all times. When you go through your wounds, when you go through your stuff, your internal traumas, see it, note it, and let it move from you. Let it wash through you. Don't let it sit inside of you, okay? Because that's all it's got. That is all it's got to control you, to keep you rooted into the system. I have been exploring these things in a much greater depth. And let me just remind those that have been on with me in the lectures is next week. The lecture starts again. So it's every week, every second week is a lecture. But coming back to the topic of discussion, find the root of your wounds and heal them inside of your thoughts, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Regain wholeness by absorbing your spirit, your soul into your spirit, your thoughts in alignment with your spirit. Then own yourself. That is the only way you're able to regain some form of control or a sense of normalcy, if even it exists within your existence daily. So we are building the wholeness, which I am saying WHOLE, whole, not HOLE, which is black hole and chaos constantly. Bring yourself back to yourself. And that is the only way that you'll be able to find yourself going towards the point of your reality where you're existing in. For now, this is what I'm sharing with you. That's what I've got. That's where we are. We're on the same page right now. And take care.